as we said before, each of us has a story of how we found Unitarian Universalism. Our stories are unique and multifaceted, and aside from the handful of what we call lifelong UUs, our stories often carry some aspects of pain or discontent with our pre-Unitarian Universalist lives. You may have been born into a faith tradition that was not ready to accept you for who you are. You may have been brought up in a tradition that you disagreed with, or that never fully resonated with you. You may still carry part of your past traditions with you on your UU journey, or you may have come from no tradition at all. Our stories are as different as our own unique fingerprints, but they are also what bring us together. That's part of the magic of being Unitarian Universalists. And just as the road that we've each traveled to get here is varied and contrast, the cultures and traditions of each individual congregation within Unitarian Universalism across our nation and world are just as unique. Some congregations observe a 1 out of every 4 years Abrahamic year, where our Judeo-Christian roots are taught diligently to children and youth, while others avoid the Bible and its stories at almost any cost. Some congregations like ours celebrate flower communion in early or mid-spring when flowers start blooming. Others practice true flower communion on or around June 4th, in honor of its first initiation on that date in 1923. Some congregations say love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. Others say to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need. And while most of us, even the kids, know or have at least heard what we say here at UUCC. So how are all these different congregations with different cultures full of people who come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs supposed to call themselves one religion? Well, we'll get to that. But first I'm going to share some personal background. You see, when I first came to Unitarian Universalism in 2013, I was an evangelist for the cause. I would tell anyone and everyone about this magic faith that I have found where you can believe whatever you want to, and where everyone is happy and loving and perfect. I was young and in love. I was starting to find healing for the wounds that I was still carrying, that had been brought on by being a young queer girl who asked too many questions, growing up in a Southern Baptist tradition that did not want to give me answers nor accept me for being gay. I just couldn't believe that I had found this magical, happy land where I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could do whatever I wanted to do. I could say whatever I wanted to say, and I could believe whatever I wanted to believe. But I was wrong. As the years went by, I started to realize that Unitarian Universalism is a religion. Just like any other, it is made of people, and therefore it can do damage. Like the other religion where I had gotten hurt, or religions where many of us have gotten hurt before. And as the big magic rock of newness to Unitarian Universalism started to get pulled back and all those creepy, crawly, slimy bugs were revealed, I was taken aback. Not just by the occasional discomfort that I felt when my "I can believe whatever I want" clashed with somebody else's "you can believe whatever you want," but by the deep pain that this religion has caused against women, against indigenous communities, against Black communities and communities of color, against those who are disabled for hundreds of years. I had to wake up and face facts, like how our proudly proclaimed religious ancestors who sought freedom from the oppression and persecution they found in England for their beliefs traveled to a place where people were already living and brought oppression and persecution for them instead. The First Parish Church UU in Plymouth, Massachusetts still claims to be the birthplace of religious and civic freedom in America, not acknowledging the displacement and harm that their very existence brought to the people already living here. And not until this very year at the 2020 General Assembly did our UUA vote to acknowledge that deep-seated hurt in those claims to fame. We have to see the reality in our history, like how our UU sister, Olympia Brown, wanted to be a minister but was refused from even applying to the Unitarian Divinity School of Meadville, which is one of our most prominent UU training schools today. And she was told by Oberlin College in Ohio that she would be admitted, but not allowed to preach. And then after finally being admitted and ordained by the Universalist Divinity School at St. Lawrence University, she was still often not listened to by the men within her congregation and eventually left to fight for women's rights instead. And we need to collectively learn about uncovered events from our past. Like how our Jamaican brother in spirit, Ethelred Brown, was so charged by the promise of Unitarianism that he wrote a letter to any Unitarian minister in New York City in attempts to become a minister himself. He tried multiple times to get to New York from Jamaica, leaving his wife and children behind to do so, and eventually succeeding in becoming the first Black ordained Unitarian minister, only to have him minimally supported by the American Unitarian Association and eventually stripped of his fellowship because the AUA found him to be a nuisance. But those are all stories from the far past, one might say. There's no pain like this today. And to that I would say we need to collectively explore the report from the Commission on Institutional Change that was harvested from first-hand interviews conducted with marginalized people, not from our history, but from our now, and their first-hand experiences of pain within this collective faith. However, my sermon on faith is not here to make you lose faith in Unitarian Universalism. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that being a responsible UU goes beyond just being entranced by the beauty of what Unitarian Universalism could be for each of us individually and for the world as a whole. Responsible Unitarian Universalism examines our past and our religious ancestors in a way that makes us aware of mistakes that we as an entire religion have made. And it looks at where we are and what we need to do better in order to move forward and be who we claim to be. So who do we claim to be? And how does faith play into that? I think to start to answer that, we have to look at our 7 principles. For those who are not familiar with them, we'll share them on the screen briefly. Now back to that new to UU young Adina. When asked what UUs believe in, I would answer, oh, the 7 principles, they're great. But the 7 principles are not a creed or a belief system. They are a shared covenant. They are the way that we agree to be with one another and with the people of the world. I think we trip up on the 4th principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. As I stated before, this does not mean that you can believe whatever you want and be a UU. If your search for truth leads you to believe that some people are less than others, then Unitarian Universalism is probably not the place for you. Or you still have some truth searching to do. But generally, I believe that this is one of the principles that has the most appeal to those who, like me, were shunned or left unsatisfied by their need to ask questions. Unitarian Universalism literally says, come in, ask questions, but you have to help find your own truth. And truth can be easily confused with faith. And I think that's part of why talking about faith in Unitarian Universalism is hard. I pause here to share a moment that I experienced about using the word faith earlier this week.
Hey, Dina. Thanks for taking the time to meet. I just wanted to check in about the worship service that you're planning and see what you're going to talk about.
Oh yeah, thanks for checking in. I'm kind of excited about this one because I'm going to talk about...
Adina? Adina, I think you're muted.
Oh, weird. I have no idea how that happened. Well, like I was saying, I'm going to talk about how we can...
Oh, hang on, sorry. Just give me a minute. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, you were saying?
Right, yes. I was saying that I'm going to talk about...
Yeah? Oh, wait. She's frozen? Or maybe I'm frozen? It's always so hard to tell. It's a problem with these Zoom meetings.
You're not saying anything. What do you think?
Oh, I think you were frozen, or I was frozen. I'm not quite sure.
So you still didn't hear me?
Unfortunately not, sorry.
Oh, goodness. Okay, here it goes. Last time. When I lead service, I'm going to talk about faith.
Oh. Are you sure?
Okay. So I admit that was staged, but the essence of the message rings true. We struggle with faith. We shy away from it. We reject the very thought of it, but we still have it. And this is where I imagine any atheists in this virtual room start shutting down or getting their fingers ready to object in the chat box in disagreement. But hear me out. We all have faith. We have faith that we are connected by something greater, something outside of ourselves. And I'm not talking about an entity or a being. Those ideals are part of your own truth. We as a religion can share one faith while we each still maintain our own truth. Our faith is in each other. Our faith is in humanity. Our faith is in the transformative power of love. Our faith leads us on the journey toward the mountaintop, a world with true social justice and equity for all. Like Penelope shared earlier in the message for all ages, our faith is like a walking stick. It keeps us steady. It helps us in the hard times, and it uplifts us even more in the good times. We are on this journey together. Others have gone before us, and others will continue to come. We may not get to that mountaintop in our lifetime, or even in the lifetimes of any of the generations already here on this earth. But that doesn't mean that we stop trying, because our faith calls us to keep journeying, to keep wearing down the path so that others behind us may make it there someday. To get there, we have to be responsible Unitarian Universalists. We're on a path both individually and collectively, and the path that we travel together is worn, but it hasn't gotten us where we want to go yet. So maybe we need to tool and retool that path. We need to forge new ways until it finally does get us, until it finally gets the world where we know it can and should be. We need to examine our past in a way that makes us aware of our mistakes. We need to look at where we are on the journey and what needs to be done to get us to our destination. And finally, we need to use our faith to help us get there. Now, the next step toward claiming and creating that world of our faith is another bad word among Unitarian Universalists: evangelism. But that, my friends, is a sermon for another day.